right, so I'm gonna start by going right inside your head. So the clip comes up. We both turn our head. I'm staring at it, and you kind of looked away. what what were you seeing that you didn't want to see?
It's difficult to take any scene out of context for me. Obviously, just looking at, especially that moment when she's so tongue-tied.
Right.
You know, I feel for that moment. I remember it so clearly. The director told me to toss the lines and just try to maneuver this, you know, in the best way that I learned to address an officer and just deal with the situation. And so yeah, a lot of times standard operating procedure doesn't always catch you. Sometimes it's like, but there are thoughts that I cannot communicate based on your standard way of communicating. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't talk soldier right now, and that happens to people. And
but that means you're a great actress, because that was supposed to happen in that scene. I mean, she's being put on the spot, and she's trying to figure out how to navigate her way through this situation and answer his question.
Yes. Yeah, she's definitely fallen into something that is hard to categorize, and you know, was probably harboring some guilt, and she really, all beyond anything, wants to be a good soldier, and so and she doesn't have clear answers for him yet. Still feels like she's doing her job to the best of her ability, and sees sort of what she sees as injustices that she can't communicate. It becomes like, you know, so much bigger than her. She's a small town, you know, girl that's just not equipped at this point to be dealing with that kind of stuff.
It occurs to me that we jumped so fast because of that clip that the people at home are like, okay, Tavis, back that thing up, back it up, and tell me what the film was about, because we jumped so quick to your point about a scene out of context.
Totally.
So why don't you, without giving the storyline away, why don't you tell us what the film is about and the character you play?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I play a girl named Amy Cole that joins the military wanting to do something greater than herself, and sort of, as a, you know, wants to be saved by something. She's a bit lost. She doesn't necessarily want to address some of the demons that she's got, and figures by joining the army, it takes sort of the individual aspect out of her life. She doesn't have to consider herself as one person. She can be a part of a whole and do something good, essentially good. And, you know, she gets stationed in Guantanamo Bay. She finds that the job is, you know, she basically just, like, straight to the point, she befriends a detainee. And so all of these sort of mantras that people say down there to keep themselves going, like, they did 9/11, they're the bad guys, this is, like, you know, this is really the only way to deal with them and treat them, and blah, blah. They start to not really feel so easy coming out of her mouth. And, you know, she just finds that getting to know this man and seeing that you can take two people that couldn't be further apart in every sense of the word. You know, it's like their background is different, their political upbringing is entirely different, their religious upbringing, and culturally just on completely different sides of the planet. Yet they find this through line, and they sort of see that this forced polarization that's happening isn't something that their hearts can actually really get behind. And so they start to feel like they're both betraying their side in some way, when really they're kind of just opening their hearts to the, you know, the nature of being human, and the fact that things aren't so clear sometimes.
So I'm glad you said that, because to me, the film is, and I guess any good project ultimately gets to this point for those of us who are you know, film buffs. But you got to get to the humanity of the character. And this film, for me, if it's about anything, it's about respecting and maybe even reveling in the humanity of another person.
Definitely.
And what made this really fascinating for me is that you come to this point of respecting and reveling in each other's humanity, but it starts with him doing something pretty funky to you. Pretty foul,
Oh, yeah.
You got to get past that first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, he says it very clearly. We are at war.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an easy friendship, which makes it so impactful in the end. It's, you know, it's her very desire to be able to view him as an animal. All she wants to, because it would make her job so much easier. It would be so much easier to look at the bars that separate them and see them as definite, you know, differences. Yet those don't always pull through for her. So I just thought that that little disintegration of somebody who wanted a clear answer that, you know, found something more complex and then couldn't stomach it was just cool.
So at this point in your career, is that what's exciting you and turning you on with regard to the roles that you choose, complexity of character? I mean, I suspect every actor wants something that is complex, but this character is complex.
Yeah, she's different. I really appreciated the fact that, you know, I've said this before, but just that you can see girls like that walking around. You know, I grew up with girls that sort of have this, like, little chip on their shoulder because of who knows what happened in their, you know, upbringing. Like, there's something inside them that they can't really acknowledge, and so I just wanted to play somebody who could have gone to high school with any one of us. That, yeah, you know, it's such an essentially American story, like, you know, just a girl that aspires to think a little bit deeper, and the challenges that come along with that, basically.
Yeah.
I thought it was a sort of perfectly timed and personal story.
Yeah. When you say perfectly timed, what do you mean by that?
Just like in this, you know, it's difficult for our generation to sort of own we don't challenge a whole lot. We don't think very, you know, it's not to make, you know, incredibly vast generalizations, but we're not the ones standing up and protesting. You know, we're not the ones that are the most outspoken. And so I thought it was cool to find someone so voiceless and somebody who really did shy away from thinking big picture, sort of have it shoved in her face and undeniably kind of stood up to her own feelings and thoughts, and especially in such a heightened, you know, environment and situation.
How did you go about researching? How do you prepare to play a role like this? Beyond knowing some people who were something like the character.
Right. Yeah, well, what I meant by that, she just felt familiar to me in this way that I could identify a few people and sort of just draw from knowing them. But Pete Sattler, who wrote the script, and I worked in a very we had a bit of time before we actually started rehearsing with Payman Madi, who plays the detainee, to think about her foundation and what led her to this place. And we had some... It's weird to talk about because it's very personal. You know, you assign these backstories to these people, and then it's sort of like, well, how much do I say about her? But you know, we exchanged a ton of reference material. Obviously, there's a lot of information about just the technical aspects of being a soldier and being a Gitmo, and then also just emotionally, like, exchanged. He calls them word clouds because I think he's trying to make me feel better about owning my poetry. But we would just, like, write things and muse on, you know, like, what was it like for her in high school? Like, what was that first dance like? What was that first kiss like? What's her relationship with her father? What is she running from? What is she trying to find? Like, where is her ambition, and why is she struggling with it so much? And, like, you know, what is her self-worth, and why is she trying to erase herself? Why is she trying to put on a uniform so she can forget that she's actually a person? All of that.
When you decided to work with, you mentioned Pete Sattler, the director of the film, who has done obviously other stuff before, but this is like a major sort of breakout, as I see his work. It's sort of a major breakout piece for him.
Definitely.
I'm glad you agree. I was about to say, I hope she agrees with me.
Oh, it's his first